Hey guys, the last video we talked about the business cycle and unemployment, and I forgot to mention an interesting fact about after the 2007-2009 recession, we had what you call a jobless recovery, which means that if, let's say 50 people were laid off from a company, once it was after the recession, the companies didn't necessarily hire back all 50. Maybe they hired 5 people because the remaining employees just became more productive. So that was a jobless recovery. Okay, so today we are going to talk about how to help the economy, and there's 2 ways. You have the government, which would be the legislative branch and the president, and you have the Fed. So the government uses fiscal policy, which we're going to talk about what fiscal policy is today. The Fed uses monetary policy. We're going to talk about that in another video. So the government has fiscal policy. The tools they use would be through taxes, government spending, or both. Okay? And notice on my chart I have expand and contract, because right now we're talking about going into a recession. So the government's trying to figure out what they can do to expand the economy, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we're in an economy where everybody has money and everybody's spending, and the problem with that is you have inflation. And inflation is a rise in the general level of prices, okay? And so economists generally say you want an inflation rate about 2%, okay? So if we have inflation that's going too high, the government will need to do things to slow us down, and that's where they would do contractionary fiscal policy. So they would do the opposite of what they're going to be doing coming up. Okay, so there's 3 types of inflation. There is demand pull inflation, which would be too many dollars chasing too few goods. That's when we're at the peak, we all have money and we're all buying, and so the prices go up. It's kind of like, I was joking with Dave today about toilet paper. You're seeing, jokingly, probably people would pay a lot of money for toilet paper right now, and that would be demand pull inflation. We're all fighting for a limited amount of toilet paper. The second type of inflation is called cost push, and that's basically like prices go up because producers, their costs go up. So if oil goes up, everything goes up. Plane rides go up, food goes up, everything goes up. And then the third type is hyperinflation, and that's extreme inflation, and that's generally, you'll see that in your third world countries where the unstable ruler will start printing mass amounts of money that becomes worthless. Okay, so like I said, 2% is the inflation rate that you want to target. And so just to give you an example, here's the inflation rates between 1960 and 2000. So this is 15%. So in 1980, we had 15% inflation. A lot of people remember the 1980s, so that is not good. You want to keep it lower. Okay, so getting back to fiscal policy. Right now, we're in an economy that people are worried about their jobs. The government needs to do something. So what they're going to do is they are going to lower taxes, business taxes, individual taxes, and they are going to increase government spending. That would be like issuing us rebate checks, building roads, bridges. I mean, they're not going to be doing that right now, but if it were in a different period of time and they wanted to help the economy, they would invest in infrastructure or do both. But then if we're like in 1980s, or we're in at the peak and they want to slow us down, they're going to do the exact opposite. They're going to raise our taxes, and they are going to decrease government spending or do both. Okay, so for what's going on now, there's pros and cons. The pros obviously would be that we all need help, people that are losing their jobs. The biggest con would be that our national deficit is just going to keep growing. So just something to think about that. And finally, my recommendations. My podcast recommendation would be how I built this. It's different companies, their stories, like Southwest or Laura Bars. It's really interesting. The book that I recommend is called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Love his books. He has several really good books. And the movie is Freakonomics. It was a book and they made it into a movie, so that's pretty interesting. Anyway, thanks for watching.